there, I'm James. Today I'm going to be speaking about a dev utility that I've been building for the Vue.js community. It's called the MEVN-CLI. First of all, a huge thanks to the Vuejs Amsterdam team for giving me this opportunity. Now, a bit about myself. I'm an undergraduate student from India. I'm pretty much into open source. I was also one among the mentors for the project Webpack as part of Google Summer of Code. Now you can find me on Twitter on the handle at @James_Matax. On GitHub, it is JamesGeorge007. Now let's talk a bit about the present scenario. Now we are all aware of the fact that the JavaScript ecosystem has evolved quite a lot. Now we have a new framework coming out each and every day. And of course, each of these frameworks is expected to be accompanied by a dev utility or say a command line interface tool. To cite an example, we have the most popular example out there, the CreateX app set of tools. Now, the sole purpose of these utilities were to provide you a starter template to work on Oppo, and nothing much more than that. Now, when it comes to the official Vue CLI utility, it's kind of like a different approach since it offers much beyond the scaffolding phase. But still, there are a couple of things left out. Say, what if the user requires to deploy his application? He, of course, requires to find the documentation online, yeah, and related stuff. So, of course, we can automate all those onboarding stuff. And yeah, so now let's see what is the point behind MEVN-CLI and what problem it tries to solve. So the acronym MEVN stands for MongoDB, Express.js, Vue.js, and Nuxt.js. So it's basically an opinionated CLI solution for the MEVN stack. And it takes care of everything from the scaffolding phase till the final deployment phase. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. And being a developer, all you have to do is to fire your respective command, sit back and relax while the CLI handles everything for you. Now, let me give you a quick demo on how MEVN-CLI works. Okay, let me get back to my terminal. Yeah. So the very first thing we require is to create a brand new project. And just like we have for Vue CLI, we have a command for that purpose called init. That means to initialize your application. And that, as I said before, that resembles the Vue create command. And all I'm gonna do is just type in MEVN init and name of your app, say my app. Now it asks you to choose between the four available starter templates. And the very first option, as the name suggests, comes with the default set of settings. And next up, we have the PWA. For following up, we have the actual starter template, and finally, nuxt.js template. And for the sake of this demo, I'm going to go ahead with the nuxt.js template. I'm going to hit enter. In case you have worked with Create Nuxt tab, you might be familiar with this interface. I'm going to choose Universal as the rendering mode, and I'm going to choose Node.js hosting for the deployment target. And yeah, of course, and the final prompt asks whether you require just a client-side application or a full-stack application. I'm going to go ahead with yes, meaning I require both the client as well as the server folder. Okay, now what left over is to navigate to this created folder and serve your app locally. Before that, I'm gonna open it in my code editor. Yeah, and let's inspect the directory hierarchy. So as expected, we have both the client and server folders. Let me get back to my terminal and let's launch our app locally. First of all, let's launch the server. That's gonna take a bit. And in the meantime, let's explore the call base. And for the server side, we just have a default route. That means that it listens to the root endpoint and that sends a static file. Nothing much fancy, just the bare basic stuff. And we also can see a new dot file being created that is being consumed by MEVN-CLI behind the scenes. Yeah, so yeah, we have our server up and running. And let me open it in my default browser. Okay, let's create modes over there. Yeah, so this is basically the default template for the server. Okay, let me get back to my terminal. And what I'm gonna do, so what we are gonna build is a pretty basic application that demonstrates the create, read, update, and delete operations. And for that, we require a couple of more files. So I'm gonna go ahead with the model view controller based architecture. And for that, and I need a couple of boilerplate code. So I'm gonna type in MEVN-generate. So as the name suggests, this command is used to generate a couple of boilerplate code, and it is going to ask us to choose between the component files or the CRUD boilerplate for the server. I'm going to go ahead with the second option, CRUD boilerplate, and just provide the path to the MongoDB URI. I'm going to go ahead with the default one. Okay, yeah, so it is going to install Mongoose for us. Let's hold on for a while until everything is being done. Yeah, let's serve our application again, now server. And we can notice a difference here in new logs stating that we are connected to the database. Let me just open the application once again. Yeah, so you can notice the difference here. We have the data being pulled from the local database. And now let me go ahead and launch the client. Yeah, so it's gonna take us through same set of process, installs the dependencies and serves in our default browser. Now, in the meantime, let's get back to our code editor, and we are going to require to update a couple of files. First of all, let me update the default layout. I'm already having a couple of boilerplate code with me, so also I'm not gonna live code for now. Yeah, so our client has been served. Let's update a couple of files over here. We also need to update the index page. Exactly. Let me grab the boilerplate code for that and index view. Yeah. Also, we can add a couple of transition effects. For that, let me create a new global CSS file, main.css. And let me grab the boilerplate code for that. Okay, here we are all good. And one more thing left out is to update the nuxt.js so that it reflects the global CSS path. Okay, main.css. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And we haven't defined these routes yet. Let me go ahead and do it in real quick. So we have the basic template over here. Maybe start a template based on nuxt.js. And let me get back to my code editor and let's set up a couple of components. For that, we require Axios and HTTP client. And let's go ahead and add Axios. Okay, a new tab. And to do this, just type in MEVN add without any arguments. And that would show us the available Next.js modules to choose from. And in this case, I'm going to require Axios. So just select Axios and hit enter. And MEVN-CLI is going to take care of everything from the installation of the dependency to adding respective entry to Nuxt config.js. Let's wait for a while until it is being done. And also in the meantime, let me just update Nuxt config with our API URL. Okay, let's set the public runtime config and API URL. Let's grab the server URL. Okay. Yep, that would be it. And finally, we can grab the code for users. Before that, we need to generate a users component. So what I'm going to do is to generate a brand new component for the client side. Let me hit MEVN-generate and provide a name for the new component, users. It's going to be page component. And let's wait for a while. Yeah, new component has been generated. And let me grab the boilerplate code for that. So what we require is to pull respective data from the database and render it on the client side. Okay, let me just update it. This is the dark client. We need to look it over again. Yeah, so we have everything in action here. So we just have a single entry from the database, and we need to create the new component create such that it adds new entries to the database. Let's do that in real quick. We generate a new component, name it create, can be page component. Okay, getting things ready for us. Let me get back to my boilerplate code collection, grab the code for create.vue, turn back to my code editor, and let's update our create.vue component. I did something wrong. I need to grab the code. Yeah, okay. Yeah, now we'll be fine. Let's visit the create route, and we have a brand new component over here. Let me just try to create a new user, say test user, and age will be from random value. Yeah, we have everything in action here. Now what left over is the final component, the update component. And as usual, let's generate the component file, name it update, page component. Okay, and in case of update component, what we expect, we expect it to be the dynamic component. And so requires a couple of tweaks. Let me just create a folder in the name update, and let me just move this file to that folder. Yes, move update.vue into update. Exactly, that's what I'm supposed to do. And now let me just rename it to underscore ID. So the update path is gonna receive a dynamic argument. Yeah, you let me just grab the boilerplate code for that. Yeah, underscore ID, and let's update our component, and let's just see it in action. Let's wait for a while and everything. Yeah, so you can see the respective ID being pulled from the database, and I hope you got the idea. So when we click update, it visits update slash. So this part is gonna be dynamic, and yeah, that's what I just did. And let me just update what was the original entry there. Test. Let's update it to be new user, something like that. Yeah, and we have ID being updated over here. And now we have all the create, read, update, and delete functionalities. And now the final step is to deploy the application to Cloud Solution. And I'm going to use Heroku for that. And let me just quit my local running application. And to do that, just type in MEVN-CLI. First of all, I'm going to deploy the server. Let's wait for a while. Now this is going to take a bit since a couple of things needs to be done over here. Let's name it MEVN server demo. Now this needs to be unique since the URL comes as part of the app name. I'm going to name it MEVN server demo. Okay. Now, as I said before, we need to wait for a while until everything is being done. Okay. Now provide a path to a cloud-based service for MongoDB. I'm going to grab my credentials. Okay. Paste it. So we're using MLabs as a service for the database as a service solution. Okay, just wait for a while until everything is being done. Okay. So as you can notice here, the respective logs are coming from Heroku CLI. So we have Heroku CLI acting behind the scenes. Yeah, build succeeded, compressing launching, and successfully deployed to this particular URL. Yeah, and it just served in our default browser. Let's visit the API endpoint. Yeah, so we have the respective data being pulled from uh, the database as a service. That means the MLab service. Okay, now what left over is to deploy our client application. And to do that, let me just grab this URL and update our public runtime config. Let me just find it in Nuxt config. Yeah, let's just update this URL to reflect the updated one. Okay, now what left over is to type in a command and deploy the client side. Yeah, so this is the final step. Let's name it MEVN client demo. Yep, that would be it. Now, hopefully, our application will be deployed to Heroku on that particular URL followed by that name. Let's wait. Now, this is going to take a bit more compared to the server counterpart. Yeah. Hopefully, it won't take too long. Yeah, let's get started. Link sources, respective logs, as I said before, is coming from Heroku CLI. Okay, installing dependencies, setting up configurations. Come on. Yep, we are almost there. Building for production. Yep. Yeah, we are almost there. A couple of steps remaining. Yep, build succeeded. It's compressing. Yep, finally, our application is deployed to this particular URL, followed by the app name we just provided. And it is going to open our default browser. And voila, we have an application deployed to Heroku. And hopefully everything, yeah, so we have the respective data being pulled off from the database. Okay, let's close our local instances. And yeah, so as we can notice, these were the data being pulled off from the database, and we have the exact same data being rendered on the client side. And we can have all functionalities as we did locally. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We just deployed a full stack application to Heroku with just a couple of keystrokes. Yeah, so you can get to know more about the project from these links. First of all, we have the GitHub repo. Yeah, so it's basically the GitHub repo. I would like to thank all existing contributors, and of course, PRs are always welcome. Yeah, and next up we have the documentation. Now the documentation site is built on top of the VuePress static site generator, and we can access a couple of demos over here. And next we have the Twitter handle. You can follow to stay updated regarding the further releases. Okay, and finally we have the Open Collective page. And in case you wish to support the project financially, and that mean a lot to us. Okay, and that was all the links. And yep, that's pretty much it. And thank you so much for having me.